What is going on, folks? It is Dr. Remy LeBeau, and I'm coming at you once again from the X-Layer to provide you my deep and insightful thoughts into Deadpool and Wolverine, or as I like to call it, Wolverine and Asshole, because this is a Wolverine movie in my mind. As much as I want to make it a Deadpool movie, this is a Wolverine movie. What were my eyes drawn to the entire movie? Wolverine. What was I interested in the entire movie? Wolverine. Am I a Deadpool fan? I like Deadpool. I'm not the biggest Deadpool fan. I started reading comics in like early 90s. Deadpool was introduced, but he wasn't the jokey character that he is, and he didn't become that until much later when I believe Joe Kelly, I think it was Joe Kelly, he kind of turned him into like the jokey guy. Anyway, never my guy, a guy, never my guy. Deadpool 1 comes out, I'm all right with it. I'm cool with it. It's just the Fox films have always been a disappointment for me because all I've ever wanted is like X-Men, like just to the 10th degree, and they've always delivered like X-Men to like the 3rd degree, which is like fine, but it was never quite what I needed. And then Deadpool 2 came out and it had like promises of being better, and it wasn't really. I don't like what they did with Colossus. I don't like what they did with Juggernaut. I don't like what they did with a lot. Cable was fine, but he could have been better. They just kind of shoehorned Hope in there, which is like, you don't just shoehorn Hope into a story. Like, Hope is an important character. Like, you tell that story, but none of that mattered because it was all jokey. Okay. Marvel buys Fox, right? Like, whoa, what? Marvel bought Fox. Like, how did this happen? Like the prospect of that happening was insane. Like, Marvel, like, it seemed like they were going to license the X-Men eventually, hopefully, like they did with Spider-Man, but for them to actually own the X-Men was just beyond the realm of possibilities. Then it happens. And then we start getting like things like kind of trickled into the movies of X-Men mutant stuff, right? We get Xavier in Multiverse of Madness. We get a little bit of the X-Men 97, X-Men animated series / X-Men 97 theme. Then we saw Kamala Khan in Miss Marvel say she's a mutant in the after credit sequence at the end of the show. And then of course at the end of The Marvels we see Monica Rambeau wind up in an X-Men universe, and we see Beast. So slowly but surely there's like X-Men stuff happening. This was the first official film by Marvel where they would have free reign to do whatever they want and make it within the X universe, right? At the same time, they are in the midst of this multiverse saga, which clearly to me, everybody has like all these critiques of it. Like, for me, it's like, it's a business decision. Like, multiverse is a way, first of all, for them to get all their characters together. Second of all, it's a way for them to allow storytelling to continue indefinitely into the future. Like, you don't have to just recast characters in normal continuity. You don't have to explain why characters aren't aging or, how time is moving, but characters are kind of the same. You don't have to explain any of that. You can just go into a new universe. It makes perfect sense from a business standpoint, which is why both Marvel and DC are leaning into it. It makes perfect sense. Is it going to be the most exciting chapter of the Marvel saga? No, it's not. But it's necessary, first of all, to bring the characters together like they did with Spider-Man. You brought all the Spider-Man together. Amazing. Now we're bringing in characters here from different universes that for the first time are coming together, and it's exciting. But at the same time, it's establishing something that will be important in the climax of this multiverse saga, which, we don't know where it's going to go yet because, obviously they had a plan for Kang. Then Jonathan Majors had his issues. Then it looks like they're like kind of doing something slightly different, but still the same. They're still working within the multiverse, right? They have Fantastic Four coming up, which is going to be in a different universe. They do have Avengers. Avengers 5? Yeah, I believe. Yes. Avengers 5 that's going to start shooting, like, I think next year or something. And then, there's supposed to be Secret Wars in there, which I'm assuming, everybody's assuming, is Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars, which ultimately was kind of like the Crisis on Infinite Earths for Marvel. which is basically a way to kind of merge universes into one universe. And like the way I see it, and I'm sure a lot of people that know this stuff see it, is that at the end of those movies, we will have one new universe, and most of the characters will be recast. I'm sure there will be characters that will not be recast, but they will be new versions of themselves, or maybe not. Maybe there'll be versions that kind of are left over from the original universes. I'm thinking like the Fantastic Four will be the Fantastic Four from this movie. We'll see what's going to happen there. It's going to be interesting to kind of see where it all goes. Like, that's what this multiverse saga ultimately is going to lead to. And I think it's going to be very exciting. I think this movie is sort of a preview of what can happen when you bring a bunch of wildly different characters together and just kind of have them kind of go at it, you know, just go at the superhero thing, do the Marvel thing, you know, the thing that we all love, that we've been enjoying our whole lives. You know, some of us have lived longer than others, and we've seen so many different things, and now it's all kind of converging. A lot of people are being introduced to things for the first time, which is very exciting. This movie was fantastic. It's very entertaining. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it so much that the minute it was done, I went on my AMC app. I have AMC A-List, so that allows you to get 3 movies a week. Looked up the next showing, found there was 1 seat available. Perfect. Got it. Went to watch it again right after it was done. So I saw the movie twice. And I've never done that before. And the reason why I felt I wanted to do it was because A, I was super entertained the entire time. And B, there was just so much going on that I kind of wanted to experience it again. And also, you know, kind of get out of that like expectations thing. Because like throughout the entire film, okay, so now I'm going to start spoilers, by the way. So if you haven't, so I'm 7 minutes in. If you haven't watched the movie, stop it now. Come back and watch this video. What I was waiting for the entire movie was to see the full X-Men team in their original costume, in the X-Men 97 costumes. That's what I was hoping to see. We didn't see that. In fact, we didn't see any of the X-Men characters except for one key character, which of course I will have a very deep analysis of. But we didn't see that. And like in my mind, I kept thinking like, oh, are we going to see like Logan, you know, like, is he going to go back, fix his situation, and then, you know, are we going to see all the characters together? Storm, Jean, Cyclops, Xavier, etc., Rogue, you know, in their costumes. Like, are we going to see this? And we did not see that, obviously. So that was my big expectation for it. That didn't pan out, which is totally fine, because what that tells me is that Kevin Feige, in He We Trust, is saving that. It's like, it's a special thing. Like he doesn't just want to blow his X load, you know, he wants to give us what we want in a very special moment, you know? So I during the second viewing, it was nice to not have expectations anymore and just watch the movie and just enjoy it and catch all the jokes and really enjoy the scenes that I loved, which there was one sequence in particular, which I freaking, it was so good. It just like, it was like so good. It was, oh man, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, it was magnificent, you know, and it was like exactly what I knew would eventually happen when Marvel got a hold of, you know, these characters and was able to tell the stories that we've all been waiting to tell and show things in the way that we've been wanting to see them, you know. Wolverine looks so good when he finally masked up, and like, you know, 20 years it took to get that. It's like, why did it take 20 years? Why? It's freaking amazing, and everybody in the audience was going nuts when it was happening. Like, anyway, all right. So this movie, huh? So it starts like in a very kind of interesting moment. I like what they did. It was like, you know, the end of Logan, you know, Deadpool's like wanting to dig up Logan from his grave from Logan, the movie Logan, right? Okay, so something very interesting though, that is implied here, because what's implied is that Deadpool's universe takes place in the same time as Logan's universe. I was watching Logan today. Like, there's like self-driving trucks. They're in the future, clearly. There's a big tragedy that happened on that Earth with the X-Men and Xavier. None of that was mentioned. when Deadpool in Deadpool 2, when he goes to the X Mansion, it's like the X-Men from the 80s or something, or the 90s, because it's like, the X-Men from the prequel series. So like nothing really lined up there. So it just kind of further confused the situation, because like even in that continuity, like anyway, like it was just weird. It was weird, and I didn't care. I don't care now, because it's clear that all of this is not going to matter eventually. And certainly it doesn't matter a lot in this movie. This movie is more about entertaining, like more about moment after moment after moment after moment after joke after joke after joke of entertainment. Like it's very much about that. And I'm very much okay with that, because ultimately it winds up being a really great experience. So much so that I wanted to see it again twice, back to back. And so much so that people were just going crazy for it. And it's going to make so much money, and it's going to reestablish that Marvel is still king, and etc., 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 etc. Superhero movies, there's no superhero fatigue. There's just fatigue for bad movies. That's it. So I'm cool with all of that. And yeah, if it doesn't make sense in terms of Fox Marvel continuity, who cares? Because Fox Marvel continuity has never been important. Anyway, we start at the beginning. He digs up Wolverine's skeleton from Logan, and then he has that big fight with the TVA. And then, we flash back, and we get that moment like 6 years prior, which is implied that it's before Endgame. So Tony must still be alive somewhere. And, he's talking to what's his name? Hogan, John Favreau, Happy Hogan. He's talking to Happy Hogan. He's being interviewed to be in the Avengers. And he's on that Earth. It's not explained how he's on that Earth, which is totally fine. Whatever. I don't need the explanation. It's totally fine. So he has something on his wrist, so that implies that maybe got him there. Who knows? I have no idea. But anyway, there's that whole thing. They reject him. He goes back to the present, and then we kind of reestablish him with the characters that we've seen from prior Deadpool films. And, he's having his birthday, and he's establishing, I love these people, and he's not with his girlfriend anymore. And, so, we establish like Deadpool in his world, in his life, what's happening with Deadpool and what matters to Deadpool, right? He wants to be a hero, like his arc, right? His arc is like, can he be heroic? Can he legitimately be a hero? And can he prove himself to be that, so that, Copycat will love him, So anyway, the TVA shows up, and then, they take him, and they explain what the TVA is, and then we find out that the death of Logan implies that is the death of Deadpool's universe, and that the guy, Paradox is the guy's name, from the TVA, he is like wanting things to be as they were before Loki season 1 and 2, where, they only had one timeline, and they would prune all the ancillary timelines, and he wants to kind of go back to that, and his job in this situation is to destroy Deadpool's universe. And then Deadpool's like, no, I want to save my family, blah, blah, blah. So then Deadpool's like, I gotta get a Logan. I gotta get a Logan to save the universe. And like he kind of, he goes against the TVA, and then we flash back to the scene from the beginning, and it's all very bloody and wonderful. And then he goes into that little montage of searching for Wolverine. Now that is what I was talking about earlier, is my favorite sequence of the film. It's fucking magnificent. It's magnificent. Okay, so first of all, we get the short Hugh Jackman, which fucking hilarious, right? Like I'm just like cracking the hell up, because that shit is fucking hilarious. We get Henry Cavill as Wolverine, and I flooded my fucking basement, because that motherfucker, chef's motherfucking kiss, goddamn. Henry Cavill as Wolverine, my god. We get Age of Apocalypse Wolverine. And then we also get fucking Wolverine on that fucking X-Cross from the Mark Silvestri, Chris Claremont cover, like 260 something, I think. Right before Jim Lee or after Jim Lee. No, this was before Jim Lee's run. It was either before or after Jim Lee's run. Anyway, that great cover that's kind of purple, where you have Wolverine like kind of nailed to a cross, and it's like an X. And there's like a, just like, in the film, there's like all these skulls, and it's just like, it's so good. It's so good. I might be missing some Wolverines, but like the stuff in that sequence is so good. My God. So good. I can watch that sequence forever and I'll be super happy with it. Anyway, so, all right, so he finally chooses the Wolverine. It's the one that's all screwed up. He takes him to the TVA. They're like, he's the worst Wolverine. Apparently, he let his X-Men die. He's all torn up about it. And most importantly, he's got the costume. He's wearing the costume because he wants to honor the X-Men, because he never wore it. This is something we find out later when he's talking to Laura, but he never wore it because, you know, he didn't like it. But then when they died, to honor them, he wore it. Wonderful. Just the arc of this Wolverine is fantastic. And even though it took up, maybe 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes to get to this Wolverine, that is when the film like truly becomes what it is, you know? Again, this is a Wolverine movie for me. Like, I understand Deadpool plays a big role, and Deadpool is sort of a framing device for it, but it's ultimately a Wolverine movie because Wolverine is so much cooler than Deadpool. I mean, let's face the fucking facts. Wolverine is the fucking shit, okay? And, you know, Deadpool is like, not that, you know? He's just like here on the side, but he's like great in terms of the jokes and like the nonstop one-liners and the punchlines and all that stuff. Fantastic, because really a lot of those jokes hit. You know, it like, they could have been shitty. They could have been terrible, and they weren't. They were actually funny. So I was like, okay, cool, fantastic. This is great. He's serving his role, like everything's kind of working. So Wolverine, you know, he's broken up, whatever. They get pruned, right? They get sent to the void. And then the whole movie, most of the movie takes place in the void. And that was surprising to me on the first round. I was like, so we're going to spend the whole time in this void. Because in Loki, it was a thing, but it wasn't a huge thing. And this is a big movie, and the setting is going to be the void? Okay. The first time around, it was sort of a thing that I thought about, and not till the third act was I like, okay, cool. I was like, okay with it. And then, of course, when I watched it the second time, I didn't even think twice about it, because I knew that like the void, even though it is a large part of the film, it is the second act. And the third act takes place in in Earth 10,005, I think it is, which is what we find out is Logan's Earth and Deadpool's Earth. Again, murky, who cares? So they get to the void, and then we have this wonderful fight between them, because like really like the action in this movie, like the bloody action is fantastic. There's 3 great fight sequences. No, actually there's more than that. There's like 5 great fight sequences. First here between Deadpool and Wolverine. Oh, so good. Then, of course, we have this fantastic moment, right? Where, spoilers, Chris Evans shows up, right? And they imply that it was Captain America because his arm had like red and blue, and like, anyway, there was like a lot of implication that was Captain America. And then we get like this horde of like Cassandra's minions, who are like the Fox Universe X-villains, Sabretooth, Pyro, Toad, and was Toad, what's his name, Darth Maul? I wonder. I didn't check the credits. Because a lot of the characters were played by different actors. And obviously multiverse, so it's fine. Like, you know, the Lady Deathstrike and the Juggernaut, a few others. I think maybe they had Callisto in there too. Anyway, so when they show up, that's when we get the reveal that Chris Evans is actually playing Human Torch, right? Which, you know, hey, like super cool, right? Johnny Storm from the Fox movies. Those movies aren't great. Silver Surfer movie, everything with the Silver Surfer is fantastic. It makes it decent. The other Fantastic Four movie, whatever, like that other iteration they did like years later, whatever. that was such a cool reveal. Everybody went crazy just seeing Chris Evans, and then to see him as Human Torch, everybody fucking went crazy, which was fantastic, because I did too. It was great. It was so good, because it's just such a great, like, bait and switch, Oh, it's Captain America. No, it's not. It's Human Torch. Fantastic. Fantastic. Anyway, so, fights. Wolverine versus Sabretooth. Fantastic. And then, of course, Toad, turns on that magnet. They get taken to Cassandra Nova. Okay, so then we get to Cassandra Nova's lair, which is a dead Ant-Man as Giant Man. Fantastic. We see Azazel there. We see a bunch of characters. Again, played by different actors, Juggernaut. And then, we get, the introduction of Cassandra Nova, which I thought they did a fantastic job with Cassandra Nova. I'm hoping that they will eventually do something more with her. The first time I watched it, she just seemed like a very incidental villain. In the second watch, I was like, okay, so I understand what this is. So I was like, okay, cool, she's a good villain. She wasn't really she was the Cassandra Nova we know, but she wasn't fleshed out. But it's fine, because it was great to have Cassandra Nova in this movie, And for her to be the villain, and for her to actually be like a really, just a legitimate portrayal in terms of the character and the characterization and the threat that she evoked. I wasn't uncertain of that she was what I know her to be. So that's fantastic. It's just she wasn't exactly who I know her to be, within the context of the greater story. But hopefully one day we will see that, with her and Xavier and whatever. But anyway, so, she's there, and then it turns out that, she's sort of, has to feed. Anyway, she kills Human Torch, first of all, and there's, this whole funny exchange with Deadpool about that. Fantastic. Wolverine is doing his thing. Wonderful. And then, of course, Goliath, that beast in the Void from Loki season 1, episode 5, which is what Deadpool mentioned, which I thought was hilarious, and so did everybody else. Shows up, and she's trying to feed, Wolverine and Deadpool to Goliath. And it's funny, I didn't realize it the first time, but they get away on a Sentinel foot from Days of Future Past, which is hilarious. I thought we were going to see Sentinels in this. I'm glad they're saving a lot of shit, because if you want to do Sentinels right, you got to do Sentinels right. And I have a feeling they will eventually do Sentinels right. We're just not going to get it yet, which I'm totally fine with. So anyway, they get away, and then eventually we get introduced to Dogpool, and then the Deadpool variant, which is Nice Pool or something, which is the hilarious version of Deadpool, and fantastic, whatever. So anyway, so they have to go somewhere, they're trying to figure something out, and they have to go somewhere to find something. I forget what. So they get in a car and they start driving, and then eventually, they get into this great discussion that eventually leads to this magnificent fight in the car. That fight in the car, so good. People are going to love that fight, man. So bloody. It's so good, man. So good. And, the emotional, impact of what led to it was, good. It was, legitimately good. Because obviously Hugh Jackman is such a good actor, and he sells the strife of the character so good. And then, to have, him kind of play off of this diametrically opposed character, which is just jokey and not giving a fuck about anything and barely affected by anything, is just a great dynamic. And to get them together is just great, period. Okay, so anyway, they have this great fight, and by the way, the soundtrack is fantastic. We have the power, I think it was the Power of Love for that original, Wolverine variant sequence. And then here it was, You're the One That I Want from Grease. Fantastic. Then we get some really great moments, right? They pass out. They're taken to the lair of Blade. Wesley Snipes shows up as Blade. That was big. That was a big moment. Elektra shows up. I forget her name. Why am I forgetting her name? Anyway, Ben Affleck's ex. And then, of course, we get fucking Channing Tatum as Gambit. Now, let me say this. This was a great depiction of Gambit. Was it exactly the Gambit that I want? No. But it was exactly what it needed to be to sort of echo what could have been as part of the Fox universe. It was very, I mean, he was very sort of like, you know, it was very kind of meta, like depiction of Gambit, of what Gambit would have been, and Gambit commenting on the fact that Channing Tatum was announced to be Gambit years ago at Comic-Con, and he never was, and so there was like a lot of that, and it was like, great. The costume was fantastic. Channing Tatum did a decent job, but obviously he was played as a joke a lot, which, you know, fine, because like this isn't the final Gambit, you know, this is like, again, this is sort of an echo of what that was, but it's sort of also a preview of what's to come. Like, we're gonna get a legitimate Gambit eventually, and it's not gonna be a joke, you know, it's gonna be like X-Men 97 serious, awesome, but this was good. Again, when it happened, it was just magnificent. Like, the costume looked great, and like everything about him looked great. I wanted a little bit more of him with Wolverine, but I think we'll eventually get that. So like, I like, again, the second viewing, I just enjoyed everything. The first one, I was like, I want more of this. I want more of this. But that's me wanting the things that are going to come eventually. It's better not to get it all at once. It's better for this just to be a Wolverine and Deadpool movie, which I'm totally fine with. So, and you know, so that was great. Introducing Gambit. So good. And then X-23 showing up. Fantastic. Everybody's dynamic. Just the jokes, the comments. Wesley Snipes killing it, man. Killing it. Like, fantastic. He's such a good Blade. He played it so well. It's so good, man. So good. So anyway, they all figure out they got to go fight Cassandra Nova and try to get out of there. And if they work together, they can. And of course, jokes. And like, nice moment between Wolverine and Laura, you know, right before they leave, where, you know, like it's just more of that emotional sort of arc for Wolverine, where he's like finally telling, you know, we finally find out exactly what's going on with him, and like, you know, and then her kind of, you know, offering what she can, like having been touched by a variant of him, but also kind of, you know, kind of calling attention to the potential that is still inside of him to be, you know, the guy that is like, that needs to be, yeah, right? Like, what was the thing again? It was like, I'm not the guy you think I am, and she's like, you never are until you are, but she doesn't actually finish that till later, which is very good. Anyway, great exchange there. Then we go to the Cassandra Nova lair, and then we have a great fight between all the characters. Like, we finally see Gambit in action. I liked it a lot. I didn't love it. I felt that there was a little bit missing, because, like, I mean, if you look at fucking X-Men 97 and you look at, like, Remember It, you know, episode 5, I mean, even just earlier episodes, like, I think they're holding back. I mean, they're definitely holding back, you know? Like, they're giving us something, but it's not quite what they're going to give us, you know, eventually. And that's what I'm looking forward to, you know? And I'm glad they didn't do it. I'm glad they did this, which, again, it's a really great depiction. It's the best depiction of Gambit in live action we've ever seen. It's as close to what we've always wanted. Fantastic. And, you know, Channing Tatum did a good job. Like, he was playing it the way he was clearly directed to play it, which was totally fine. And, like, again, there were some really great action moments, but I wanted, you know, like the 3 or 4 cards, like, and then I didn't want him to say, I throw cards and they go boom. You know, I didn't like that. It's just, but again, like, this is like Fox Gambit. It's not MCU Gambit yet. It's more like, okay, this is what he would have been. And it's decent, but it's kind of lame, because all the Fox stuff is kind of lame. You know, it was very self-conscious of that in the depiction. It's clear, which I'm totally fine with, because this movie isn't Gambit. This movie isn't Wolverine, Deadpool, Gambit. Even though I think they should do a Wolverine Gambit movie. Am I wrong about that? I mean, come on, Wolverine and Gambit. Hello. Or Gambit and Wolverine, if you want to get nasty with it. Anyway, so you know, there's the fight. There's like really, really great moments there. Everybody gets great fighting moments. Laura, Elektra, Blade gets magnificent fighting moments, as well as great one-liners. I mean, I'm telling you, Wesley Snipes was just a wonderful MVP of like these sequences. But everybody did really good, you know. I mean, I think the MVPs are definitely, obviously, Wolverine and Deadpool, but Wesley Snipes, I think, is third. I think Channing Tatum is fourth, and then, you know, Cassandra Nova, and then et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, so yeah, so they do this whole thing. Cassandra Nova eventually allows them to go back into their universe, and when they get to their universe, she decides, I want to destroy that universe with the with like that machine that's supposed to like destroy the universe, which is set there by Paradox. Okay, so this is the third act. Now the third act. Okay, so Cassandra Nova is going to go try to destroy the universe. And then she's like, I brought people to make sure that Wolverine and Deadpool don't stop her. And it's the Deadpool corpse, right? It's like every multiversal Deadpool. Well, not everyone, but obviously a lot of them. A lot of really great variants. I love that gunslinger Deadpool. I think he's fantastic. And there's just so many funny little things going on there. When I watched it the first time, I was like, okay, I'm down for this. But it was just like a little too much Deadpool. I was like, okay, this is a little too much Deadpool. And then Wolverine fucking puts on that mask. The minute he puts on that mask, electricity fucking runs through my body. Fucking Madonna's Like a Prayer starts playing, and then we get that amazing fucking battle sequence. And my eyes are on Wolverine. Because he's fucking Wolverining. Like, for the first time in ever, we're seeing Wolverine as he actually should have always been depicted. And it's fucking glorious. It's so good. It's so good. I'm just doing that. I was like, this is awesome. So fucking good. Carnage, killing, magnificent. Ultimately, they kill everybody, but then everybody's unkillable. So then they all can't come back. And who stops this situation? Which it's Peter. They did this funny thing with that guy Peter from Deadpool 2, and he's like apparently the most likable guy in the world. Everybody likes Peter. He tells them to stop, so they all stop fighting. Great. Wolverine and Deadpool then go down to try to stop Cassandra Nova, and then they find Paradox, and they force him to tell them how to stop the machine. So they have to sacrifice, somebody has to sacrifice themselves to stop the machine. So then there's obviously the whole sequence of like, who's going to do it? They fight. Eventually, Deadpool's like, I'm going to do it. And Wolverine's like, I'm going to do it. And then Deadpool, like, you know, eventually tricks him and he starts to do it. And then it looks like he's not going to be able to do it. Cassandra Nova is destroying his universe. Everything's falling apart. Last moment, Wolverine fucking jumps in there. His fucking shirt rips off. I get an immediate boner. And so does the entire world. And then and we have this wonderful, like, and like a prayer is, there's a new depiction, there's a new recording of like Madonna recorded a new version of Like a Prayer for that sequence, is what I heard. I heard they asked her if they could use the song, and she's like, yes. And then she's like, but this is how we should do it. And then she went into the fucking studio and she recorded some shit real quick, and they used it there, and it was such a great fucking sequence. And they fucking save the universe, and then, you know, and Cassandra Nova's killed, and then you think they're dead, but they're not, and they pop out, and then Hugh Jackman's wearing the mask, but he's shirtless, and everybody's like drooling, and it's fantastic. The minute his shirt comes out, when Deadpool's like looking at his body, and he's like, I'm like, that's right, baby. I know where you're coming from on that one. Man, Hugh Jackman looks good. Man, that guy looks good. And there was a funny joke made earlier in the film where Deadpool's like, oh, this is Wolverine. He's talking to that other variant, Deadpool Nicepool or whatever, when they first see him in that grassy knoll and a grassy field. And he's like, this is Wolverine. He usually has his shirt off, but he's let himself go since the divorce, which was like, you know, Hugh Jackman got a divorce after like 30 years, like a couple, maybe like a year and a half ago or something. Interesting comment. But then ultimately we see like, no, he didn't let himself go. He looks fucking amazing at like 55 or something. Like, dude, fuck yeah. Like that's my dude, man. That's my fucking dude. Him and Henry Cavill, both of them. Come on, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Some of you know what I'm talking about. You've had the same thoughts. Okay. So fucking, just they work it all out, and then Peter shows up, and the chick from Loki, the head of the TVA, and him have this hilarious moment. And there was probably the funniest line that Deadpool said, where like cause the head of the TVA, she's like, "I'm going to show you something big," and Deadpool's like, "That's what my scout leader used to tell me." It's like, dude, the jabs do not stop, and like, it's like no limit to what Deadpool will say, and I love it. It's so good. I don't like Deadpool as a character overall, but Ryan Reynolds' depiction, and also just Marvel clearly like allowed him to do whatever he wanted, and they also, what they do is like they massage things. They're like, let's go back, let's do some more, let's do some more, let's do some more. So I'm sure that's what they did, because like there was that whole period where they were shooting, and then they had to stop shooting because of the strikes, or they continued shooting, but the writers were on strike, but Ryan Reynolds couldn't come up with stuff. But then once all that was done, I'm sure they went back and reshot a bunch of shit with him just throwing out more one-liners that he probably thought about during the writer's strike, and then came back and kind of used them. So there was just so much in there, and it all worked, and it was hilarious. Anyway, so, then we get, the shawarma moment, where Deadpool says that the Avengers invented or discovered shawarma, which is hilarious. Call back to Avengers 1, obviously, the after credit sequence. That was shot like weeks before Avengers 1 came out, which is funny. And then finally, we get, and then there's also a mention of, hey, I want some of these characters to survive that we met. So we know now that like Blade is in play, and Elektra's in play, and Gambit's in play. and then of course X-23 we see her in the final dinner scene, and she's with Logan. So like father and daughter are gonna be together. It's just like so wonderful, I mean, I can totally just see a movie between them two, like no more of this bullshit of she's like, who is she? Let's figure her out. People are trying to kill her. No, she's an adult. He's an adult. They're both killers. Let's go. They're on a mission. Let's go. Wolverine and X-23. Let's do that movie. We can do it right now, and it would be a fucking hit. So, and then just everybody's together, and then Ryan Reynolds is like, so Wolverine doesn't want to fix his timeline because everything that happened to him led to him being there to save Deadpool's timeline. So, like, he was fixed, and like he was better, and like and then he became part of Deadpool's family, and then Deadpool, like, it appears he's going to get back with Copycat. And the movie ends. It's really good, man. It's really good. And what's really, really good about it is that the second time I watched it, like, it moved really fast. Like, I was just, like, enjoying everything I knew was coming. Like, I didn't get tired of it. I wasn't tired of it. I wasn't, at any point was I like, oh, God, let's get to the next thing. I wasn't. I was just enjoying all the sequences, and of course now, even now, having seen it twice, I'm like, should I go watch it tomorrow? Am I going to watch it this weekend? I like that I can go see it anytime. I can see it 3 times a week with my AMC A-list. So it's wonderful. It's a wonderful movie. It's a great experience. I think people are going to love it. I think it's going to be huge. And it's going to do big things for Marvel. It's going to do big things for the Wolverine. Deadpool, of course. It's just so much good, so much good. I'm so happy that this movie exists. I'm so happy I was able to enjoy it twice on opening day. I got that popcorn bucket from AMC. That thing sold out. By the second viewing, it had sold out. They also had these cups that had like Wolverine and Deadpool, and I didn't get one the first time around. The second time I was like, I'm gonna go get one of those cups. Sold out. All they had was like that. They had head pool like things, but nobody really wanted those, it seemed. Anyway, I procured a popcorn bucket, so nobody worry. Okay, I procured one. Anyway, man, what a great experience, What a really great experience. I want to thank Kevin Feige, Marvel God. If Deadpool is Marvel Jesus, Kevin Feige is Marvel God. So I want to thank Marvel God for this wonderful gift. It's just wonderful. And again, it's only a taste of what's to come. Like, imagine a movie that is just Marvel X-Men. It's just MCU X-Men. You know, none of this ancillary shit, none of this multiverse shit, just Marvel X-Men. Imagine that. And that's coming eventually. I know that all these characters are going to be in the Avengers movies, like either Secret Wars or the one before it. The multiverse saga isn't over yet, and there's a 2-parter that's going to conclude it, and we're supposed to see a ton of characters. So I have no doubt we're going to see all the Spider-Men. We're going to see Chris Evans as Captain America from some other universe, and as Johnny Storm. We're going to see Electro. We're going to see probably Ben Affleck as Daredevil. We're going to see probably the Silver Surfer from the original Fantastic. I'm saying all the Fantastic Four from that movie are probably going to be in it, including the new Fantastic Four that we're about to get. It's going to be crazy, and all of the X-Men in that movie. I suspect we will see all of the X-Men from the Fox universe in the Jim Lee X-Men 97 costumes, or in some variation thereof, because obviously in the season that we just watched of X-Men 97, you know, we got the classic costumes as well. So they're willing to play with all the history of the looks of the X-Men, but we need our live action X-Men to have the costumes that we've always wanted them to have. I want to see James Marsden in that Cyclops costume, because it's going to be magnificent. Right there, baby. Right there. We saw Wolverine in the brown costume too in that sequence, which is fucking great. Did we see Psylocke? There was a girl with like purple hair. Was she Psylocke? I don't think so. Maybe she was Betsy Braddock. Maybe, or not. You know, maybe, you know, because Betsy Braddock, Kawanan. Anyway, long story. Wolverine and Deadpool is out, and I saw it twice, and I loved it. I'm gonna see it a few more times. And anyway, thank you guys for checking out my videos. Thanks for checking out my channel as always. If you haven't already subscribed, subscribe. Leave some comments. Tell me what you thought about the movie. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down on the video, just to kind of help me along with that algorithm. Slowly but surely, I am building up my viewership. I've been doing this for over 10 years now, so you know, I'm here to stay, and now the X-Men are going to be bigger than ever, and I'm going to be talking about this shit more and more as time moves forward, because we have more X-Men 97 coming. We have more of these movies with these mutants coming. It's going to be glorious. And you know, we might have TV, like we're going to have a Comic-Con. I think, oh shit, it's this weekend. Comic-Con is this weekend, so maybe I'll do a video on Sunday after all the announcements to see, or maybe after all the announcements tomorrow, I'll do a video. Not tomorrow, Saturday. If there's things that are pertinent that I feel are worth talking about, maybe I'll do a video to kind of discuss those things, because I have a feeling a lot of really wonderful, excuse me, that was a popcorn burp. We have a lot of wonderful things coming, and I don't think we're ready for it. I'm so excited for all of this. I'm so happy that I have this movie to watch whenever I want. And yeah, I hope you guys are doing well, doing your best in this crazy life. And as always, I want to remind you that if you haven't already, you better put an X in the box, because ain't nobody checking me. Take care. Bye-bye.